Hello all, welcome to R&D Labs with me Rohan, and today we'll see how to use Firebase Authentication in your Swift project. We'll enable the user to register himself using his email ID and password, log in using the email ID and password, plus recovering the password using the forgot password option. But before we begin, let me just request you, if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe. It helps us a lot. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. So for this project, I have created a startup project in Swift using storyboards, and I have already designed and kept the user interface for you so that I don't waste much time. And I'm using Xcode 13, and I really like the interface that Apple has given us, clearly indicating the purpose of the files that are there within your project. You can see the icons, they are very much changed than what we had in the previous version. So for this tutorial, what we're going to do is we are allowing the user to register himself using the email ID and password. Next up, we'll be allowing him to log in using the email ID and password. And in case if he has forgotten his password, we'll be allowing him to recover the password using the forgot option button as well. All right, so what we have done up till now is we have just designed the user interface and kept, but we haven't yet hooked up the outlets for them. So let's go ahead and first hook up the outlets, and I will open up my assistant editor, and let's go ahead and do that. So let's say text field, email ID. Okay, so the email ID is ready. Then we will just go ahead and set up the outlet for the password as well. So text field password. All right, so this is all that we are going to do for the text fields. Now for the button, the rest of the three buttons, we will be having the action as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the action. This is button underscore login click. Okay, and register. So button underscore register click. Okay, and the forgot password option as well. So let's say button underscore forgot password click. Okay, so I haven't added click over here, but anyhow, that was what the purpose is all about, isn't it? So after we have done this, we will have to create the pod file for our Firebase authentication. So first up, let us open up the terminal and install the pod. So let's open up the terminal and let us cd into our project, which is the project's name is fbauth, and we will say just pod init. All right, so the pod is initialized, and we will have to write the pod command to install the Firebase authentication pod into our project. Let's go into the folder of the project, and which is right here. So let's open up the pod file. Okay, and over here we just have to write pod. Oh, just bear in mind to have the p in smaller case, otherwise the pod will not be installed. So let's write firebase /auth. Okay, so this is what you got to write, and I will save it, and let us run the terminal again. In this time we will write pod install. Okay, just bear in mind, when I had upgraded my Xcode to Xcode 13, I had to update my CocoaPods. Okay, so in case if you're having a new Xcode which is recently updated, you need to update your CocoaPod gems, and then only you can be able to install any further pods for any other project. Okay, so let's close this. This is of no use to us right now. And in fact, we will have to close the project as well and open up the XE workspace file. And I will maximize it so that it fills the area, and you've got two sections over here, which is fbauth and the complete section with the pods. And over here, you can find all the pods that you had installed it using the pod command recently. Okay, so you have the Firebase and everything related to Google that is there along with the Firebase authentication. Okay, so let's maximize our FB auth section, and over here our area of interest should be the view controller and the app delegate files, because we are already done with the main.storyboard and we had connected our outlets and the actions for our controls. Okay, so let's open up the delegate, and the first thing that you got to do over here is you got to write import Firebase, and yes, in the did finish launching with options method, you just have to write Firebase app.configure. Okay, so Firebase app.configure. Okay, and that's it. This is all you got to do in the appdelegate.swift class. Next, let us move to the view controller.swift class. And over here, the same thing that you got to do over here is let's say import Firebase. Okay, and where do we start? We will start by registering the user first. Okay, so let us go ahead and register the user, and this is where the user comes into your app. So let's go ahead and write that. So the first thing that you got to do is you just have to write auth.create user. Okay, so it will give you two parameters, which is with email and password, and it will have a completion handler as well. Okay, so your email and password is your text field .email ID .text, and I'm going to force unwrap it because I know it will be there. So in your use case, you can have a validation in case if the password or the email ID or the password is not filled. Okay, so I'll just leave it up to you, and for the sake of time and the tutorial, I will just force unwrap it over here. Okay, and what this will do is it will return two parameters, which is auth data result and error. So just double tap it and it will fill up the area for it. So over here, just say auth result SULT, and over here just say error in. Okay, so these are the two completion handlers, and let us complete the block over here for it. Okay, so let's say if let o error is equal to error. Okay, and which means there is an error while registering the user. Okay, so let's show that error to the user. So let's say alert. Okay, so we'll be showing up in a alert box. So let's say UI alert controller. Okay, and let's give it a title with message and preferred style. So let's say oops and let's give it a message saying what. So you don't know what the error is, so let's say ER or OERR. This is our variable which is returned from the error completion handler. Okay, so let's say localized description, and this will actually give you the error that was incurred during the registration process. Okay, and the alert style is alert. Okay, I don't want the action sheet. What do we do next? We just say alert dot add action. Okay, and for that we will have to give the UI alert action, isn't it? So let's say UI alert action, and let's give it a title and the style. So let's say okay, fine, and we'll give it a default button as well. So let's say default, and handler is nil because we just leave it like that. Okay, and let's say self dot present. It's right here, and view controller is alert, animated is true, and completion, you can just remove this section as well as nil. Okay, so we have completed the first block, which is error, but what do we do if the registration is successful? So let's go ahead and write an else block as well. which will say print. Okay, and bear in mind, whenever any user is registered within the Firebase, it will have the UID or the user ID. Okay, so we will go into the Firebase console once we write the register and the login sections or the actions for that buttons, and then we will go to the Firebase console to create the project. Okay, we haven't done that, so we will be doing that in the course of this tutorial. So let's say user UID. Okay, and over here what we're going to do is, using string interpolation, we will say auth result. Okay, so this is our variable which is part of the completion handler. So auth result dot user dot UID. Okay, so it will return back the user ID for us. Okay, and what we are going to do is we are going to show the user ID as well. So let's say let alert again. So instead of just typing it, I think I'll just copy paste it so that we are more or less showing the same scheme of things. So let's say yay, and the message is auth result UID. So let's paste it over here, and preferred style is alert, and let's say okay, and just present it basically. Okay, what's gone wrong over here? Okay, yeah, so let us typecast it to string. Okay, so what are we doing at the moment? We are allowing the user to register himself, and if there is an error, just show it. If not, you're just going to get the user ID back. Then yes, you can save this within the database that Firebase console provides, like the Firestore or the real-time database. So the registration part is completed. Now let's go ahead and see what to do within the login button. Okay, so you are authorizing the user to log in using the email ID and password that he has used for registration. Okay, so bear in mind, Firebase does the heavy workload of validating that particular login. Okay, and in case if the credentials do not meet or the user is not even registered, the Firebase will prompt an error message to the user automatically. Yes, the code needs to be written, and that is what we're going to do it right now. So let's say auth sign in, and we will have to use the overloaded method, which includes the with email and password and has a completion handler. Yes, you've got a whole load of sign in methods over here which are overloaded, and you need to use with email and password. Okay, so this is where you can pass in your email ID, okay, and the password. So let's copy that. Again, I'm just force unwrapping it and double clicking on the auth data result. Yes, copy paste this as well. Okay, and in the code, what you got to do is you have to basically write the same lines of code. Okay, so it's fairly simple. So if there is an error, yes, you will show the same error message that will be returned back within the completion handler, and that's it. And if the login is successful, instead of just showing yay, let's say welcome. Okay, and yes, of course, you can simply show the email ID over here. Okay, and the user is notified that he is successfully logged in. Okay, so yes, the registration part and the login is completed. Now, in case if the user has logged in and he has closed the app, okay, so you don't want the user to come into a cycle of every time logging in, isn't it? So the best alternative over here that I can suggest is just check if he is already logged in and then allow him to proceed using the app. So where do you write all these methods? You just have to write it within the view did appear method. Okay, so let's say override function, view did appear. Okay, and within this you just say if auth dot current user is not equal to nil. So that means there is a user which is already logged in into the system or the app for that matter. Okay, and say let alert. Okay, instead of typing, I'll just copy paste it. so that, and I'm copy pasting the success criteria over here. Let's say hello and welcome back. I'll just write this hello and welcome back. Okay, and I'm just going to pass in the email ID for that particular user. And over here, instead of the auth result, what we are going to do is we are going to write auth not current user. Okay, so we'll just remove this user dot email. Okay, so this is how we are going to specify the email ID. So that is the current user's email ID, and it will be shown on the alert box. Okay, so this is what is basically telling us that hey, the user has already logged in and he's allowed to move ahead in the app. And just for our check, say user has a session blah. Okay, so I just leave it right there. Okay, now most of the coding is done. Okay, we are yet to do the forgot password. We will leave that until we come back from the Firebase console. So let's open up the Firebase console and set up the project for us. And before that, we will just copy the bundle identifier. I'll let you know why. So let me just copy this first. Okay, now let's open up our Firebase console. It's right here, and yes, I have some apps over here already registered. So let's click the add project button, and over here let's specify the project name, which says FB auth test. Okay, and let's click continue. And yes, okay, let's click continue. Select an account. I have a default account. Let's create a project. It will take a while for the project to be created, so let us wait. All right, so I guess it is finishing up and we should be ready with the project anytime soon. All right, let's click continue, and it opens up our project console. And over here to the left is all the options that the Firebase console has. All right, so in the authentication menu, let's go and click that. And over here, you have to click the get started button. So let's go ahead and click that. And just click email and password, which needs to be enabled. Okay, so let's click email and password and click enable, click save, and that's it. So your email ID and password authentication type for our app is enabled, but you haven't yet connected your app to the Firebase console project, isn't it? So let's go ahead and click the project overview and click add app. Okay, and within the add app you have the iOS, right? So let's click the iOS, and over here, as I said, we will need the bundle identifier. So the bundle identifier is mentioned over here, and we have copied it from our project. And let's click register app. And this is very important, guys. You need to download the Google service info.plist file. This will hold all the information that needs to be there to connect your app to the project. Okay, so let's click download, and I guess I will have it downloaded. And let's click next. And we have already done this. This is the section for CocoaPod was for Firebase Analytics. It's up to you guys. It's not necessary for us to have the Firebase Analytics hooked up to our app. So let's click next, and over here we have already done this, and let's click continue to Firebase console. All right, so you have technically followed the steps to connect the app to our Firebase console, but we haven't yet done it through the project itself. Okay, so once we import the Google service info.plist file to our project and run a build, that is when the communication between the project and the Firebase console happens. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy the Google info.plist file to our project. So let's drag it and let's save it here, and let's click copy items if needed, and let's say finish. And yes, you need to rename this in case if you already have Google Info .pls file in your download. So let's have that changed, and yes, it will be changed after that. Okay, so that's it. So we have Google Info or Google Service Info.pls file, and you don't have to change anything over here. Okay, this will remain as it is. Your app delegate.swift class, you don't have to do anything over there. Let's switch our focus to the view controller .swift class, and what we're going to do now is we are going to allow the user to recover their password, okay, using the forgot password option. So how do you do that? The use cases, we will prompt a alert box. In that we will have a text box for the user to type in the email ID that he had used to register in our app. Okay, so let's do that. So let's say let alert is equal to UI alert controller. Okay, and over here we will say title with the message which says enter your email ID. Okay, and message is nil. Why? Because we are going to have a text field in that. Okay, so let's say nil, and preferred style is alert. So let's say dot alert. Okay, and over here we will say alert dot add text field, and in this we will have to specify the text field name. Okay, so once we do that, we will just have to name this text field as text field underscore email ID. No, we'll say recover email ID. Okay, why? Because we already have the text field with the same name in our project. Okay, so we just have to change that so that we don't mess up. So let's say text field dot recover email ID dot placeholder. Yes, you require that, and just say email ID. Okay, so this is a really good way to tell the users, hey, you need to write the email ID, and dot alert dot add action, and over here let's say UI alert action. Okay, and with that we will have the title as well, and title is send email. Okay, so that will be a button. Okay, and style will be default, and the handler is let us just double click this, and you have the alert action. Okay, so we'll just specify the alert with the specifier as week. Okay, and let's say in, and I'll just make some room and so that you guys can follow along. Okay, and over here what we're going to do is we are going to specify, or rather pick out the text field. Okay, the text within the text field. Okay, and we will say guard let text field is equal to alert dot text field of 0, since we have only one text field, so we are going to specify the index to it. Okay, and after which what we're going to do is we are going to copy the text from this text field into a variable. Okay, so let's say user text is equal to text field, which is our variable that we have declared over here, dot text. Okay, and let's say else just return empty. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, and we have copied the value from the text field into a variable. Okay, and this line is really important. After which what we're going to do is, just for our sake of confirmation, we are just going to say recovery email. Okay, and which is a recovery email over here. This is just for our confirmation, nothing to do with the project as you'll be designing it. So let's say text field, and just leave it like that. Okay, and next up what we're going to do is we are going to call the Firebase forgot password method. Okay, so let's say auth.auth, and let's say send password with email. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, and we have I think one more overloaded method which is having with email and action code settings. That is not what we're going to do. We're going to use the first one. So let's say with email, and the email is, as you rightly guessed, we are going to use the variable that we have created over here, which is the user text, and let us convert that to string. It's easy. Let's convert it using string interpolation, and I think it's better to even send this to our print statement. Why is because this particular variable has a text property of the text field, not the entire text field by itself. Okay, so this will actually return a proper email ID to you guys. Okay, and let us open up the completion handler, and it has got only one variable, which is, or one argument, which is error. Okay, so let's double click it and just type in error. Okay, and over here the same line of code that we have written on top can be copied and just paste it over here. And over here what you're going to do is just say success. Okay, and let's say message sent. We can just remove this part of it. And what is remaining over here? Or the result in scope. I guess things are all right. Let's give it a build and see. Okay, there is let it build, and there is one more line of code which I feel while reading the lines of code that we have written. See, there is a alert message. Okay, and there is another alert over here which will show up the success. So why not, let us dismiss the previous alert, and I feel that this will kind of hinder our progress. Okay, so let's say alert confirmation. Okay, and let's create another variable of the alert confirmation name, and that's it. So we are done with this, and what we are going to do is we are going to dismiss the previous alert box. So let's say dismiss true. Oops. And completion nil. Okay, so that will just dismiss the previous alert box that we had, and let's build it. Okay, now we have the simulator, which is iPhone 13 Pro, and let's run it and see what we have. On the sidelines, let us also open up the console for our project. It's taking a while to set things up within simulator. Okay, now what we're going to do, we are going to say okay, so let's write rndlabsme@gmail.com. okay, and I'm just going to specify the password over here, and it's not in the secure text. Okay, so it's all right. I mean, if you guys are developing, just apply the secure text property to the password field. Okay, let's click login. There you go. So we haven't written the code over here to check the validation, to check the verification for the user login. Firebase actually does it for you, and says there is no user record corresponding to this identifier, or the user may have been deleted. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and register this user. Okay, so when you click register, yay. Okay, so we are returning the user ID to it. Okay, so you can save this user ID within the Firestore or anywhere within your project. Okay, so the user ID is registered, and what we're going to do is we are going to click login, and yes, it says welcome rndlabs@gmail.com, and that's it. So if you remember right, we have also written some lines of code in view did appear method, isn't it? So if you see the view did appear method, it says hello and welcome back, and it returns the email ID, isn't it? So let's close this, and let's say fp auth, and it says hello and welcome back. It says rndlabs@gmail.com. Okay, so this is what you guys can do for the session, and instead of showing the login, you can directly go to your main view controller rather than the login page. Okay, so let's click OK. And one more thing that we have done is forgot password option. Okay, so before going over there, I just want you to see what is there within the authentication. Okay, so we have the rndlabs@gmail.com, which is created during the course of this tutorial, and it has automatically created a record over here, and this is for us to verify the user. Okay, you can delete, disable and reset password from the console as well. Okay, and next up what we're going to do is we are going to click the forgot password button. So once you do that, is there something missing over here? Okay, let's run this within the simulator again. Okay, welcome back is there, and let's click the forgot password button. Okay, so your ID is here. Strange. Oh yes, yes. Oh, my bad. Okay, so what are we missing over here is we haven't yet added the main alert box, the main alert to our view. So let's write self.present. Present. Okay, and over here just say alert. Okay, so this is our UI alert controller. In fact, I just got lost because we have already written so many alert controllers within this particular block, so I missed out on the main alert that was supposed to be there, and just say true to this and completion nil. And over here you can also add the cancel button as well. Okay, so let's say add action. Okay, and with title and the handler. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to specify cancel, isn't it? So let the user cancel it, and the style is let's say destructive, and you can just remove the entire block for the end part of it. Okay, so the last parameter is not there. Let's give it a build and see. Oh, and I think we have missed the closure for that. I think it should be okay, and let's run this within the simulator again, and I'm quite excited to show you the forgot password. Okay, it says hello and welcome back, and let's bring up our console as well, which is in Edge at the moment. Okay, so this is it. So let's say okay, and I don't remember the password at all, so I just want Firebase to recover my password. Yes, the alert controller is there. So let's write our email ID. So let's say rndlabs@gmail.com. Let's say send email. Success, the mail is sent. Okay, so we haven't written any such code over here. Okay, the code to check, the code to verify the email ID, the code to send an email, nothing is written by us. We are just actually capturing the response that has been given by the Firebase console. Okay, so just say message sent, click OK, and what you're going to do is you have to open up your email ID, and I will just do that for you. And let me see. Okay, so we have an email that is sent by the Firebase console, and it says follow this link to reset the project. But actually you cannot at the first glance, okay, it feels as if it is a spam. Okay, so what you got to do is if you go to our project console, and over here if you go to templates and just click password reset, over here you can just edit this piece of code. Okay, let's say forgot password. Okay, and let's say reset password for let's say authentication app. Okay, and you can actually set up a really beautiful HTML page right within this block. Okay, and what you can do is after you do that, just click save, Okay, and the next time that you do it, you can just see the difference. Let's say, oh, let's write our email ID, rdlabs at gmail.com, and just say send email. Mail is sent. If you open up the email again, you can see there will be one more email. Now you can see the difference. The first one is with no reply, and the second one is, or the newer one that we have sent is with forgot password. Okay, so if you click this, if you recollect, our older password was with numerals from 1 to 8. So I'm just going to keep 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, I'm just going to save it. Okay, it needs at least 6 characters. Okay, so let's say 1QAZ2WSX. Okay, and I'll save it. Okay, so the password is changed, so let's use it within our app. And let's say 1 2 3 4. Oh, sorry, I was using 1QAZ2WSX. Let's log in. Wow, it works. So it's that simple to use Firebase Authentication in your Swift project. In the coming tutorials, we'll see the different ways in which we'll be using the federation services of different service providers like Facebook, Apple, Google, and all. So please, please, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and please like and comment and share and do whatever you can to support us and be part of our journey to learn Swift. See you until next time. Cheers.